Are demons real? Evil spirits? Yeah, they really, really are. What do they do? Where do they come from? I'm not really sure, but I'll tell you something about what they do. Christians should know about this. They inject all kinds of thoughts into your mind that are very highly menacing and toxic. And, a lot of them try to promote various religions of the world and things like that. I can tell you one of my most recent experiences where I actually got to see a demon, actually in the flesh. I don't know what was going on, but when did it happen? I was cruising around downtown Los Angeles just trying to pull off various mitzvahs and such and righteous deeds that I could conceive of, testing people in different ways. And I got to moving a certain part of downtown Los Angeles, and I got to a certain and I recognized that, okay, there's certain times that it's time to go, and it's time to keep walking and moving. And there's times it's time to stop and do not go any farther in that direction. And I kind of got the impression that, yeah, God himself as a father generally kind of puts demons in certain places to prevent you from going there at the wrong time. That was the impression I had. So once upon a time when I was down there, I was kind of, I don't remember where I was going. It was doing something, but it was a while back. But yeah, I'm pretty sure God allowed a demon to be sitting on the street corner. This was the only time I ever saw a supernatural being in the flesh with my own plain eyes. The only time I ever saw that. So I knew why it was there too. I knew the message was clear in my mind. Don't go there. Don't go past where God has permitted you to go. But it was sitting there on the corner of this restaurant, on the street corner, kind of, just kind of pacing back and forth a little bit. It's like its head was like all shimmering and iridescent, and it was mostly black, but it had some streaks of blue on it and kind of like white and glittering gold colors and things. It was kind of shining and iridescent. You could tell it was a supernatural creature. That's the only time I've ever seen a demon in the flesh. And like I said, my perception was at the time that God had placed that there to prevent me from going there at that point in time. He didn't want me to go past that point. And I was not going to find out what's going to happen to me if I tried to walk around it or something like that. You know what I mean? Where else have I seen demons? There was another time. I've only been a few times where I've really clearly seen them. There was another time when I was in another city, I don't remember, outside of Whittier, California. We left Los Angeles to go somewhere else, do some more righteous deeds if possible. And I ended up in a park not far from a shopping center, and this is a trip. I was sitting on a bench, and I look up, and this tree, which you don't think a tree is a demon. I'm pretty sure demons can pretend to be anything they want to. This tree started moving around, and I'm like, wow. It didn't surprise me. I'm like, I don't know. I used to think I was a demonologist when I was a Christian. So it started moving around, the tree, and it started looking like down at me, and I'm like I could tell it had I had its attention. Like it was like the whole thing was like peering over me, and it's just kind of a trip. And that's probably the only two times I've ever actually seen demons. And the timing was such as that I was generally around downtown Los Angeles on a spiritual kind of quest to perform as many simple righteous deeds as possible, sort of build up my name a little bit in the kingdom. So, but yeah, on that journey I did encounter demons twice that I clearly remember, where it was obvious. This demon in this black garment with this like all black creature with like strange glowing colors and stuff to keep me from going a certain direction I wanted to go, and God basically said, don't do that. And the other time was when this tree that was by this park bench that I was just kind of tired of sitting down, it was totally moving around, and it was like this tree was like peering down and looking at me. Like I could tell it was like very interested in me. Like I didn't know what it wanted. I was thinking, does this thing want blood? Is it like a vampire? Like what is this? And like I wasn't afraid of it. I don't really get afraid of anything anymore except for sin and death and God. Those are things that you should be afraid of. Not demons. You don't be afraid of demons. What are they going to do to you? So they can't touch you if you're not sinning. Generally speaking. So was I afraid of this tree because it started moving around, its branches started moving, and I didn't know what it was going to do. Could it have killed me pretty easily? I'm pretty sure that's a pretty big demon. It could have killed me in 2 seconds. Same thing with this other one that was just trying to prevent me from going a certain direction in downtown LA. It probably killed me easily. So they are dangerous, but not more dangerous than God. You fear God, don't fear demons. But anyway, just if you obey God, you'll always be protected from them. Like the tree didn't touch me. It was a living creature from hell. This tree, straight from hell, and planted in a park or something. And yeah, it was moving around. And I don't know what its capabilities were, what it could have done, but you go on a spiritual journey, you might encounter these things at some point in your life. You try to do some Mother Teresa type thing with your life, you might encounter some really evil forces that are very obvious and blatant. So thank God I didn't encounter too much of that, where it was very obviously demonic. There's a few occasions, a little bit harder to discern, when like everyday common ordinary objects would be disguised, so they were actually demons, but they were disguised as ordinary everyday objects, so that for whatever the reasoning might be, I came to the conclusion that maybe what God was trying to do was encourage me to learn better discernment of spirits. By allowing demons to pretend to be everyday objects. So you could recognize something simple like that. Perhaps you could move on to something far more complex, such as, okay, demons who pretend to be God and give you visions of the throne of God and the living creatures. How would you know that it was a demon? So that's much more advanced discerning of spirits. That exists. It's rather frightening when you realize that, many believers of different faiths are totally convinced they have seen visions of God and of the angels, and it was completely demonic. So that's a much more advanced form of discernment. I guess I might have started off with something basic, like, well, is this trash can that's disguised? That's a demon in disguise? And, starting with something basic, and I remember I went through a period like that for a little while of discernment, learning discernment. And also, like, street lights and things like that. Is that a demon? You just kind of, and going from there, learning how to discern basic stuff like that. Like, obviously, if out of the corner of your eye you start seeing some trash can start moving around and rotating and talking and doing weird shit like that, you realize something's off. Now, when you get into more advanced discernment of spirits, like when you're dealing with bright lights that are like, wait, is that light perfectly white? Or is that a little bit yellowish? Is there some kind of off-white in there? You know what I'm talking about? So you see a vision of the throne of God and God on his throne with the angels at the right and the left. At that point, you're dealing with something much more difficult to discern. So it's no longer is this trash can secretly a demon. No, it's more like, is that the throne of God? The throne of glory? Or what am I looking at? Or a demon? So this discerning of spirits goes pretty far as what you have to learn, if you wanted to, which you should. You don't want demons communicating to you and pretending to be the Spirit of God, and you thinking it really was God, and then you find out you were just a total false prophet at the end of the day, another Joseph Smith. That would be a bad situation. Discerning of spirits is important. Like I said, I've encountered a lot of what I perceive as demonic activity, just a couple of occasions where it was very obviously demons doing stuff, and a bunch of other ones where it's a little harder to discern, but you notice things weren't quite right about that situation. Whatever it was, is things not quite right, and you get the feeling and you get an understanding that, okay, that was probably demonic, whatever was going on. So this is important to learn proper discerning of spirits. This is one of the ways that you can learn to protect yourself. That way, God as a father doesn't constantly have to hold your hand and help you on the bike with the training wheels. You can actually think for yourself like a man of God would, and operate with your own reasoning that God gives you, instead of God having to hold your hand all the time and constantly reassure you and give you the answer. God doesn't want to give you the answer all the time. You never learn anything. He wants you to think for yourself. Would a good father constantly give his child the answer, or encourage him, why don't you think for yourself, So first, a little bit of guidance and being led by the Spirit, and then eventually thinking for yourself, to where you can discern spirits and understand these things and protect yourself from spiritual forces that you wouldn't want to be too involved with. And how big do demons get and how complex? Well, if demons can rule over entire churches and deceive the entire congregation, well, there you go. There's a clue. It's kind of frightening. Let the entire congregation think that they're being exalted up to heaven, and quite the opposite is true. That's a big demon. So they definitely do stuff like that. I have another experience that this is basic discernment, because it was like that for a while. It's just basic discernment initially. How do you discern spirits in a very simple way? Well, there was a Jack in the Box restaurant downtown LA, or Whittier it was. I think it was Whittier, outside there. And the Jack in the Box, it seemed okay until I went inside of it, the entire building. And then when I got inside of it, I perceived the whole building started spinning around in circles and circles and spinning around. When I was outside, also the building actually kind of reached out towards me and started moving. None of the other buildings were doing this, just the Jack in the Box. So I went in there and I just noticed a handful of other things that were kind of like little clues that the entire facility, the entire building was one giant demon. My understanding, I'm pretty sure it was. I don't know. The moral of the story is obvious. It's to learn very basic discerning of spirits, moving onward slowly to much more advanced discernment, which is much more difficult. When demons pretend to be God, try to pretend to be the Most High, that gets really tricky. That's no longer like, is this trash can a demon, or is this ordinary object a demon? No. That gets a lot more frightening. So that's more advanced discerning of spirits, and this is spiritual warfare, and it's really not a joke. Demons will do everything in their power to destroy the righteous and put that light out, even to discourage people who might pursue righteousness. So yeah, I'm just sharing a few of my experiences. Yeah, I have those 3 occasions: the Jack in the Box. What else? That might be it. Just the 3 occasions that are kind of notable. There's probably a handful of others, and more minor occasions, but those are my experiences recently with demonic forces from hell. And it's very real, And I have never seen a demon in the flesh as a physical being walking around, except that one time. I don't really look forward to that either, because one of the first questions I ask is, did I sin? Did I make a mistake? Because you don't want to have that happen, and then you're confronted with a demon who can destroy you. Do you know what I'm talking about? You don't want to be confronted with a supernatural creature who can kill you, and you find out that you're guilty of some kind of sin. That's just not the scene. That's not the place. You don't want to be at the wrong place at the wrong time and find out the hard way because some demon was able to attack you because you were vulnerable. So a lot of this is about spiritual warfare and stuff like that. I experienced a lot of this stuff in my little journey downtown LA and elsewhere. I'll be thinking about it for a long time, but there are obviously many considerations and things like that when it comes to this. Now, the Christian notion of demons and the Jewish notion of demons, they're kind of similar. You can look in the Babylonian Talmud. They mention demons a bunch of times, messing with the scholars and the students at yeshiva. They mess with them and mess with their clothing and things like that. I don't know. Christians have maybe a little more solid grip on what demons do, except, Christians might not have thought for themselves that people can literally become demons by their choices. If you make certain choices that are really wicked and evil, you have effectively become the equivalent of a demon in the eyes of God. And I wouldn't be surprised if you kept pursuing evil long enough. Now, I don't know, does this happen often? I don't know. If you kept pursuing evil long enough, that you would physically actually change to accommodate your inward choices. I don't know about how, but I might have seen a few things. Anyway, yeah, I think people can eventually become demons if they continue down that path of darkness for too long. Now, has it happened very often? Hopefully not. Can that happen in the future as different things happen? That's possible. I don't know. Don't go down that road. And if you ever encounter demons, here's the first question you ask. You don't ask yourself, I encountered a demon, is it going to hurt me? No. Ask God, have I sinned against you? Have my hands clean? Because if they're not, that supernatural creature could easily just destroy you and send you straight to hell. So there's some things to think about. I'll be thinking about this stuff for a long time myself because I've had many different varied experiences, in my little journey down to Southern California, It's a pretty short journey, just a few months, but, it's a lot of things to learn and a lot of confusion, but a lot of lessons, too, eventually to be extracted. So I'm just sharing a few of my thoughts for a moment about the demonic and what I've experienced and how I get the impression that people can literally turn into demons over a long period of time of choosing foolishness for long enough. And whether that's a physical change or entirely a spiritual change, I'm not really sure. But watch out. You don't want to continue pursuing wickedness and effectively turn into a demon in the eyes of God. Because of that, your heart becomes so hard that it's virtually impossible to repent. You don't want that kind of a situation. To where you're headed down this path, if you pursue that route of wickedness, where you get to a point where you think about God, and whenever you think about God or you see God, the only response that comes out of your mouth is, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you, That's what they're like. That's what all the wicked are like. Eventually, if they keep becoming more and more wicked, that's the only thing they can think of or speak of whenever they perceive the things of God is just constantly, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you, And that's just what happens when wickedness completely takes over you. This is what happens with the demons. They're much farther along the path of wickedness than most of mankind, in my estimation. But that's what's coming out of their mouths after a while. And maybe even in hell, they may do the same thing. But they would constantly be cursing God and hating anything that's good and holy. You don't want to pursue that path. There's no life in that path, and a lot of people kind of have, but in various ways. Anyway, yeah, just a few thoughts for the moment. You guys just think about some of these things. But yeah.